The richest man starts from searching for treasure in a container. Introduction. What is in a container that no one wants? What can be found in the abandoned warehouse? Do you think there's only garbage? No, no, no. Antique jewelry, limited edition racing cars, aerospace equipment, helicopters, Niu Di Jing. Nothing can be imagined without you. Transforming waste into treasure and turning decay into magic, Zhu Yu awakened the heavenly eye and opened up infinite wealth from unclaimed containers, gradually moving towards the path of success. The content is a bit sensitive, it has been reviewed. Everyone, wait a moment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. The content of Chapter 288 code is a bit sensitive and has been reviewed and modified. I have deleted a few hundred sensitive words, which basically does not affect reading. I have applied for lifting the ban, please be patient and wait. Did you decide to gamble in Chapter 1? You are listening at novelfull.audio. New York, Port Area, 7 Axes Bar. A Chinese young man is carefully wiping his glass. Hi Zhu, you can rest now. At this point, there won't be any guests coming, you can go back. Chinese young man Zhu Yu placed the cup in position and then went to the counter, hesitating for a moment before saying. John, I won't come tomorrow. Have you made a decision? John, the white boss, was not surprised at all. Since you've made a decision, then go ahead and do it, young man. I'll keep an eye on you. Thank you, John. Zhu Yu sincerely thanked the other party. If it weren't for them, he might have already fed the fish by now. No, 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 I'm investing, John said with a smile. You're a good young man, and I believe you'll definitely succeed in the future. He took out a stack of money from the counter and handed it to Zhu Yu. Zhu, take it. Gambling on containers requires eyesight. Over the past month, you have shown extraordinary eyesight and memory here with me. However, relying solely on eyesight is not enough, and enough money is needed to support it. I don't want you to go to war for the first time and not even get a container. Zhu Yu looked at John, and to be honest, although he had saved some money in the past month, it was still a bit insufficient. Take it, don't look at me like that. I'm afraid Joanna, that little rich woman, will find someone to fix me if she sees it. John was joking, and Zhu Yu simply took the money over. Then count this money as what I borrowed. When I have the money, I will double it back to you. No, 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 John shook his fingers and said with a smile, no, it's not necessary. This is my investment. By the way, as long as you get good things, you can get them from me and ship them out. Definitely. Zhu Yu said gratefully again. He knew that John had a very strong network and shipping channels here, and this was indeed beneficial for both parties. Of course, John's goodwill towards himself was also sincere. Alright, don't have to accompany my old man anymore. Go find Joanna and enjoy life when you have time, young man. Look like a young man. If I were your age, I would have run away long ago. John joked and walked out of the counter, ready to close the door. Zhu Yu smiled but did not answer. Joanna's father is a large cargo yard owner in the port, with a family fortune of tens of millions or more, so Joanna is considered a little rich woman. Half a month ago, Joanna came to the bar to relax and then fell in love with Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu did not accept it. It's not that Joanna is not beautiful, on the contrary, Joanna is very beautiful. The reason why Zhu Yu was favored by Joanna was largely because heroes saved the beauty. Joanna didn't know why, ran over to drink, and drank too much of herself. As a result, someone came to tease her, and then Zhu Yu dealt with her. With John's permission. When opening a bar here, John absolutely does not allow anyone to cause trouble, flirt with women, fight, etc., and John's strong network and the double-barreled shotgun under the counter also ensure his authority in speaking. After leaving the bar, Zhu Yu arrived at the employee dormitory provided by John. A room renovated with a row of containers. He opened the gas stove, made some food for himself, closed the door of the container, and began counting his savings. A month ago, Zhu Yu was picked up by John and helped him heal his injuries. He also took him in to work at a bar. This month, in addition to food and accommodation, John gave Zhu Yu a reward of $2,000. Zhu Yu usually received a tip of $350, but now he has spent some of it, leaving only $2,100. The pile of money that John gave just now, Zhu Yu counted it and found that there were $1,000, so there were $3,100. It shouldn't be a problem to get a container. Looking at the pile of money on hand, Zhu Yu smiled bitterly. A month and a half ago, I never imagined that I would run to the United States to inherit my uncle's estate and end up like this. Almost like a gangster. Zhu Yu's uncle came to the United States in the 1980s and married a wealthy local woman, but had no children. At the beginning of this century, Zhu Yu's uncle returned to China to visit his family and made it clear that his billions of assets would be given to Zhu Yu. At that time, Zhu Yu's parents, brothers, and even Zhu Yu himself felt that uncle was joking. However, just a month and a half ago, someone called Zhu Yu and said that according to Uncle Zhu Yu's will, Zhu Yu was asked to go to the United States to inherit his estate. The other party faxed Uncle Zhu Yu's will over. It doesn't seem to be fake. Zhu Yu's father asked him to come over and inherit or not. Besides, at least he could bring back Uncle Zhu Yu's ashes. One of Uncle Zhu Yu's last wishes is for the fallen leaves to return to their roots. Zhu Yu graduated from university and later worked in a foreign company for 2 years. There was no problem with English conversations, so he completed the procedures and passed over here. As a result, it was quite good at the beginning of the conversation, but the lawyer insisted that Zhu Yu hand over his personal jade pendant. This jade pendant is inherited by the Zhu family. The pattern is in the shape of a Tai Chi diagram with yin and yang fish, and the two pendants can be combined. Zhu Yu's father received a white pendant, while Zhu Yu's uncle received a black pendant. Zhu Yu kept a watchful eye and demanded that the other party also take out the black pendant. As a result, the other party revealed their secrets and began to pursue Zhu Yu. Fortunately, Zhu Yu was already prepared and escaped, but he was also seriously injured. Although Zhu Yu carried his passport and other items with him, his package and other items were all left in the negotiation hotel, with no trace on him. If it weren't for John picking him up, he would have really fed the fish now. Although Zhu Yu stayed here with peace of mind for a month, he did not gain anything. He gained the eye of heaven. Take out the white fish pendant from your neck. This jade pendant looks ordinary. Go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but who would know that this thing, stained with Zhu Yu's blood, actually made Zhu Yu open his eyes. Staring intently towards the edge of the container, Zhu Yu unexpectedly looked out of the container. A truck slowly passed by, and the driver of the truck looked normal. Who would know that his hand had reached under his crotch? Zhu Yu withdrew his gaze, feeling a bit dizzy. Opening the sky is equivalent to perspective and requires a certain amount of mental power. The method to exercise mental strength and make the heavenly eye open for a longer time is on the black pendant. This is also one of the reasons why Zhu Yu must stay. We must figure out Uncle's situation and bring back the black pendant. In the bar, Zhu Yu met various people. Apart from sailors and container drivers, the largest group is container treasure hunters. At the port of New York, there are a large number of unclaimed or auctioned containers that cannot be paid by futures traders every day. Zhu Yu heard many legends of overnight wealth in these people's mouths. I also heard about the inconspicuous things hidden in the container, which can be worth a lot of money. What he didn't expect was that the owner of the bar, John, was actually an expert in this area. Many treasure hunters would hand over things to John to handle after they received them. Of course, even ordinary things don't appeal to John. Seeing that Zhu Yu was interested, John brought Zhu Yu with him when he was collecting things. This not only broadened Zhu Yu's horizons, but also taught him a lot of knowledge about identifying the value of second-hand goods. This gave him the idea of betting on a few containers to accumulate initial funds. If it's in China, is it also possible to gamble with stones? Forget it, just be honest and stay here. Tomorrow, we'll go gamble on the container. Chapter 2 has gained insights. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, Zhu Yu cooked porridge and stir-fried 2 dishes. After finishing, he cleaned up and headed towards the edge of the port. There are many cargo yard owners of all sizes in the port area. Yesterday, Zhu Yu learned from John that there was a small yard owner James preparing to auction off 4 containers today. James's freight yard is located in a corner of the port area, which is inconspicuous and not very convenient for transportation. Those who rent containers here are basically not considered wealthy. Zhu Yu also came to try it out this time. After all, the port area is a bustling cargo yard, and most of the auction containers store some popular goods. Even with tens of thousands of dollars in auction goods, Zhu Yu couldn't afford it. When he arrived at the freight yard and saw the dozen or so that had already arrived here, Zhu Yu felt a thump in his heart. These treasure hunters are really raw and cold. I saw several celebrities among the treasure hunters, such as Madden, Diana, the Black Joey brothers, and so on, all of whom are the big shots among the treasure hunters wandering in the port area. I often hear about them buying containers for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, earning tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. How could such a person come here to search for treasures? Upon seeing Zhu Yu arrive, several regulars in the bar greeted him with a smile. Hey Zhu, are you coming to watch the excitement or are you planning to take a gamble? Old John said that this Chinese kid also wants to gamble on luck. When we get here, it all depends on our own luck. Maiden, who had a good attitude, said to Zhu Yu. Good luck then. Zhu Yu said thank you. This maiden may seem polite, but according to John, he is the deepest among these people. John also warned Zhu Yu that if he came to take photos of the container, he must not let others, especially Madden, see his own thoughts. Otherwise, you will definitely have your beard cut off. Zhu Yu infiltrated the crowd, greeting while looking at the 4 containers that had already been suspended on the open ground. The auction has not started yet, and all 4 containers are locked. Zhu Yu walked up to him and seemingly unintentionally scanned the first container. There are some old furniture in the container, several tin tubes, and an old box. Based on the experience gained from John, old furniture is not worth money, and the contents inside the tin tube are not visible to most people. However, Zhu Yu can see that there are some old packaging bags inside. In that old box, there are some game controllers, old records, and other things. All of them don't add up to $100. He immediately closed his eyes and went to look at the second container. There is an old piano standing at the door of the second container. There are also several standard boxes inside, all of which are musical instruments. Zhu Yu simply passed by. This container is open door cargo, I can't gamble. Close your eyes and feel dizzy. Take a break. The Black Joey brothers next to him laughed at Zhu Yu. Huaxia kid, your body still needs exercise, you need to learn from us. Zhu Yu smiled and remained silent. If you really want to fight, you two combined are not one. The third container contains several boxes of old clothes, as well as a torn suitcase. There is a table at the door blocking the view, and a pile of old clothes is placed on the table. The key is the suitcase, and Zhu Yu glanced at it. Inside was an antique typewriter. This thing is still worth some money. Zhu Yu immediately withdrew his gaze, feeling a bit dizzy. At this point, the yard owner has already arrived, but the auctioneer has not arrived yet and will have to wait for a while. Zhu Yu rested for a while and looked at the 4th container. Inside the 4th container were a dozen neatly arranged cardboard boxes. Zhu Yu glanced at them and found that there were printing papers inside. There seems to be a machine or something in the back box, but Zhu Yu can't see it clearly anymore. His dizziness became even more severe, and he had no choice but to retract his heavenly eye. We must take a break now. At this moment, the auctioneer arrived. Previously, Zhu Yu had seen this auctioneer, who was around 40 years old, bald, wearing a jacket, and usually quiet in bars. But during the auction, it was very eye-catching. The freight forwarder hastily said a few words. These containers are all expired and others do not renew their leases. Some of the owners are farmers and some are merchants. I hope you can make a fortune here. Say it and signal the assistant to start. The assistant held a pair of pliers and unscrewed the lock of the first container. The container opened, revealing the old furniture inside. The onlookers immediately came over to take a look, but could not cross the line. After looking around, the auctioneer immediately began standing in front of the container, raising his hand. The starting price is $50, $50. Okay. 60. 100. 100. He speaks very fast, but he expresses himself very clearly. As soon as someone increases the price, the number in their mouth immediately begins to change, and their hand also points to the person who increases the price. Zhu Yu was resting while listening to the auctioneer shouting prices. He was a bit surprised how he kept a tone from beginning to end and couldn't even hear any breathing. This auctioneer is not easy either. Zhu Yu also symbolically offered $100, but after being surpassed by someone, he never offered again. There aren't many bidders. Soon, the container was taken by the Black Joey brothers for $200. Everyone else was giggling, some congratulating Joey, and some sarcastic. The second container was opened, and the Joey brothers did not look at their own container, obviously intending to take a series of photos. As soon as I opened the door, I saw the old piano, and the voices of the onlookers immediately became enthusiastic. The auctioneer was also very happy. After everyone looked at it, he immediately shouted loudly. Starting from $500, the additional price for each auction must not be less than $50. $1,000. Madden was the first to bid. $2,000. Diana followed closely behind. $2,500. Zhu Yu also followed. However, his price was quickly surpassed, and in less than a minute, the bid for this container reached $6,000. Everyone knows that although those musical instruments are second-hand, they are still worth some money. Finally, the container was taken by Matt for $9,000. Matt's face showed a hint of pride. Next, there is the third container. The auctioneer started the auction at $25 this time, with no less than $25 markup each time. Because the old table at the door is blocking it, it's not very clear inside. However, the sharp-eyed person still saw the old clothes exposed in the box inside. The auctioneer is also aware of this, so the starting price is not high. However, even so, there were not many people participating in the filming. Diana called the price once and added it to $50. Then Zhu Yu increased the price to $75 by searching for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Zhu Yu's performance was not eye-catching and did not attract much attention. Maiden increased the price once to $100. Zhu Yu's palms were sweating. He planned to take this container, but it couldn't be too obvious. Seeing no one raising the price, he nervously raised it to $125. The auctioneer looked at him with strange eyes. He had seen it a few times at the auction site, but had never seen Zhu Yu auction before. But this time, I'm afraid this Huaxia kid will lose out. After Zhu Yu offered twice, no one offered again. Zhu Yu felt a little worried in his heart, but he didn't show it. Diana suddenly asked Zhu Yu. Zhu, why do you insist on taking this container? Joey interjected next to him. I heard that Chinese people all know kung fu and some mysterious things. Can Zhu see the treasure in this container? After listening to these two people's words, everyone else cast their attention. Zhu Yu wants to strangle Joey at this moment. However, he remained calm on the surface, with a self-deprecating smile. I also want to take down the previous container. But I only have over $1,000 on hand, so I can only look at these low-value containers. He pointed to Matt, then to Diana, and said, as long as you have a good view of the container and even bid tens of thousands of dollars, there's no need to compete with us poor people for this little money, right? His words successfully attracted the firepower to these big shots. After all, most of these 10 or so people have only a few $1,000s in wealth and cannot compete with those big shots. Zhu Yu breathed a sigh of relief in secret. I hope this way, we can get by. Chapter 3. Who earns the most money? You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the beginning of Zhu Yu, several other people began to roast about Maiden, Diana and others. Zhu Yu was actually left to the side. The auctioneer was also sidelined, so he simply raised his voice and repeated Zhu Yu's $125 bid twice. No one participated in the bidding, so the auctioneer reached out and pointed at Zhu Yu, indicating that his bid was successful. Before Zhu Yu could express his greetings, the auctioneer immediately turned to the fourth container. Zhu Yu was not in a hurry to clean up the contents of the container. Instead, he paid the container owner first and followed suit to the fourth container. At this moment, everyone's attention shifted from a few big cows to the container. Opening the container and seeing the neatly arranged boxes, everyone's attention immediately became focused. Usually, there are good things in such boxes. The box is new, no matter what's inside, at least it's new. The auctioneer looked at things and also became interested. After discussing with the yard owner, he immediately opened a bidding price of $500, with each increase not less than $50. One person immediately increased the price to $600, and then the price climbed all the way up to $1,000. At this moment, Zhu Yu had some recovery and opened his eyes again, looking inside the container. 20 or 30 boxes of paper outside, with brand new printers placed in the middle box. Although there is still printing paper in the back box, these printers are worth a bet. At least a dozen units. These things are so valuable. At this point, the bidding price has reached $2,000. Zhu Yu immediately followed a $2,100 bill. Upon hearing Zhu Yu's voice, several people turned their heads to look at him. Zhu Yu smiled. I think there should be something good inside, right? Joey laughed and said, you can't be illiterate, can you? It's clearly written on paper. Zhu Yu smiled but remained silent. Although Joey said so, he still quoted a price of $2,300. Zhu Yu believed that Joey's words were just to cover up. These people who often wander in the container treasure hunt must have seen using cardboard boxes to pack other things. But Joey really managed to coax a few people, and by $2,500, there were fewer people participating in the auction. Maiden had already taken a shipment of a container earlier, but at this time he is still insisting. $2,700. The auctioneer continued to shout. This is the price offered by Zhu Yu. $2,800. Joey raised his hand again. At this moment, Diana raised her hand. $2,900. $2,900. $3,000. Zhu Yu raised his hand for the last time, whether it was successful or not, that was all he had. He expects everyone else to give up. However, Maiden raised his hand again. Zhu Yu shook his head and turned back to the nearby container. This time, he gave up. Joey finally bought this container for $500. Zhu Yu began cleaning up the contents of the container he had captured. He was thinking of Madden next door and Joey on the other side. There is a high probability that both of these people will make a lot of money. Those instruments can be worth around $15,000, and if there is a collection version of the instruments, it may even be higher. Not to mention those printing papers, just a dozen or so laser-integrated printers are worth almost $10,000. Compared to them eating meat, I can only consider drinking soup here. Some people outside have already dispersed, while others are still watching the excitement. Zhu Yu moved out the table and started cleaning up old clothes. These old clothes are relatively clean and have all been washed. Judging from the style, it should be considered popular in the past 2 years. Zhu Yu flipped through each item, hoping to find some special styles, even not letting go of his clothing bag. He really had to come up with a few tens of dollars in change. Then there was no more. The little Joey next to him looked at Zhu Yu's movements and sneered. No need to look, there are no valuable clothes. This container is obviously used by ordinary people as a warehouse. Now that the rent of the container is more valuable than the goods, they naturally don't want it anymore. Zhu Yu thought about it the same way, but what needs to be cleaned still needs to be cleaned. Seeing that Zhu Yu didn't listen to him, Xiao Joey went to clean up the box on his side. Zhu Yu took out several boxes of clothes from the container, opened them, and finally took out the box containing the typewriter. At this moment, a black girl came over and asked Zhu Yu. Do you sell these clothes? Zhu Yu hurriedly said. Sell it. The girl immediately started talking about the price. $100, you take all of it. Zhu Yu simply offered the price. $100, just enough to recoup. The girl carefully flipped through the clothes and found that they were all quite clean. She took out $100 and then carried the box out. Finally, the girl had to pick up the box containing the typewriter, but Zhu Yu quickly stopped. This is not clothes inside, it doesn't count as inside. The girl didn't believe it, but Zhu Yu opened the box. An old-fashioned typewriter appeared in front of me. Seeing the typewriter, the girl was somewhat disappointed, but still said thank you to Zhu Yu and turned around to leave. If these clothes are put in a second-hand market, selling them for $200 to $300 is not a problem. Zhu Yu finds it troublesome. After all, he really doesn't have the leisure time to do this. Zhaozuiyuan.com. The dispute between the girl and Zhu Yu caught the attention of the Joey brothers and Maiden. The Joey brothers saw the typewriter and didn't clean their boxes. They ran over to take a look. This typewriter looks quite new and well maintained. The box is still from the original factory. Big Joey carefully looked at the box and said. Little Joey carefully looked at the typewriter and then said. The machine is often oiled, and there is no rust on each part. I think it can still be used. Zhu Yu said with an excited expression on his face. Haha. I made money. How about selling it to me for $2,000? Big Joey looked at little Joey and then spoke to Zhu Yu. Maiden next to him said. Why don't you sell it to me for $2,500? Zhu Yu shook his head. I think if given to John, it could sell for $3,000. Zhu Yu remembers that John once said that a typewriter with a price that is well preserved and still usable in the eyes of collectors is only $33 to $3,500. He reserved some profit margins for the other party. After all, without profit, the other party cannot buy. Okay, I'll buy it for $3,000. Big Joey immediately agreed. Zhu Yu looked at Ma Deng, who shrugged his shoulders and turned to leave. Deal. Zhu Yu and De Qiao Yi slapped. This sum alone is equivalent to 1 month's salary income for the middle class in China. Keep it going. After receiving $3,000 in cash, Zhu Yu prepared to clean up the remaining garbage. Little Joey didn't leave and patted his shoulder, saying. Zhu, there's another transaction, do you want to hear it? Chapter 4. Earns another sum. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Transaction. Zhu Yu turned his head to look at little Joey. Big Joey looked unhappy and was unpacking a box. Hey, I said, don't dismantle it anymore. Little Joey scolded his brother. However, Big Joey ignored it and walked into the container. He took out a cardboard box from below and used a small knife to cut open it, only to find that it was still made of photocopy paper. Shit. Big Joey threw the box down this time and walked out indignantly. Little Joey just said to Zhu, "Earlier, I saw that you offered $3,000 to purchase this container. Are you interested in it?" Zhu made some vague guesses, but said calmly, "Yes, what's wrong? Congratulations, you can now own this container." Little Joey exaggeratedly stretched out his arms and laughed. "For just $5,000, this container is yours." No, 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 no. Zhu was secretly pleased in his heart, but on the surface, he quickly waved his hand. "You have opened both the outer and inner boxes, all made of photocopy paper. This is not worth $5,000 at all." Little Joey cursed lightly with dog poop and turned his head to complain to Big Joey. "I just told you not to open the box inside. Why don't you sell this container to Madden?" Zhu pointed to Maiden next to him and said. Maiden was packing his instruments when he pursed his lips upon hearing the words. "They have already dismantled 7 or 8 boxes. This type of box is a unified container, and the contents inside are basically the same. How could a blind box that has already been unboxed still be worth so much money?" After listening to Maiden's words, Zhu spread out his hands and said to Little Joey. "You see, I think so too. But what?" As soon as she heard of a turning point, Little Joey immediately came to her senses. "If the price could be lowered to $3,000, I think I would still be a bit interested. You know, my initial bid was $3,000. Upon Zhu words, Xiao Qiao immediately put on a bitter face. "Then we're also losing too much. That's it." Big Joey heard this and quickly took another box from the container, opening it and saying, "Why don't we open the box ourselves?" The result was still the photocopy paper, and Big Joey threw the box away with a gloomy expression on his face. "Now there are only $2,900 left," Zhu said while tidying up the garbage. De Qiao pointed at Zhu and said with hatred, "You don't go too far." Zhu is not afraid of the two of them. In the bar, these two brothers did some unethical things after earning money. They are not good people. "Think about it," Zhu said as he saw the two of them arguing. "I'll finish cleaning up the garbage here and leave. You still have 10 minutes to think about it. After speaking, don't lift your head and continue to clean up the garbage." The clothes were bought away, and the remaining garbage was an old table and some tin cans. "Clean it up quickly." Zhu was somewhat disappointed. "Did you lower the price before? Did you scare the two Joey brothers, big and small? These printers are quite valuable. Forget it, if you can't get it, then you can't get it. I earned $3,000 today, that's enough. In Chinese yuan, it's about 20,000 yuan. In the world of online literature, earning 20,000 yuan per day is also a god-level existence. Be content." Zhu was about to clear away the cleaned-up garbage when Little Joey walked over and said to Zhu, "Hey, Huaxia kid, it's a bargain for you. I'll sell you this container for $3,000. 2,900. Zhu didn't let go. Okay, as much as you say." Zhu simply paid the money, and after receiving it, Joey didn't seem to leave, probably wanting to see Zhu open the box. Maiden has already packed up the instruments and is ready to take them away. It seems that Joey, big and small, has stayed behind, so he decided to stay and wait for Zhu to open the box. But Zhu waved his hand and said, "I won't open the box. I'll find a truck and just take these things away." Little Joey immediately dissuaded. Gambling on containers is all about gambling. If you win the bet, you will love the feeling of overwhelming luck. The other few who stayed, including the freight yard owner, also advised Zhu to open the box and take a look. Zhu waved his hand. "Why don't you two bet? Speaking, he called for a car. He is planning to take the old table back and put it in the container for his own use, and the remaining garbage will be thrown into the roadside garbage bin. As for those photocopy papers and printers, John has a way to get started. Big Joey, however, was still unwilling and ran to the container, pulling out a box to open. Look, it's copy paper again. Then he opened another box, and Zhu Yu saw that as he was about to stop it, Big Joey had already opened the box. Look, it's... Damn it, this is a printer. Big Joey suddenly stayed on the spot. In the box, there is a brand new printer. He and little Joey exchanged a glance, both eyes filled with regret. Why didn't you persist for a while? Zhu Yu saw it and said coldly. Big Joey. You guys have fouled. Upon hearing these words, Joey, big and small, immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Yeah. Gambling on the container, after paying, the contents inside the container will become personal belongings. Now, Big Joey disregards the consent of the shipper and opens the boxes inside the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com without authorization. If we really count this, it is a serious crime in America. Madden immediately fell into the well and laid a stone. Yeah. Big Joey, you're going too far. The things inside are Zhu's, he can open them if he wants, and if he doesn't want to open them, he can't open them. It's illegal for you to do this. Madden was naturally willing to drive away a strong competitor. Zhu, I'm sorry. Big Joey hesitated for a second, I didn't mean to. Besides, you see, it's my lucky hand that opened the door to wealth for you, isn't it? Zhu Yu, however, was not moved by his sweet words at all and said coldly. You don't need to open it, the things in this box can't fly away either. I think starting tonight, the entire New York port area will know about your Big Joey's bad behavior. Big Joey is really panicking this time. He is not afraid of the Chinese boy, and even looks down on this yellow-skinned worker. But if one's own illegal behavior spreads throughout the entire port area, then there will really be no way to get along in the future. Big Joey was still hesitating, while little Joey gave him a glare and approached Zhu Yu, pleading softly. Zhu, I know your Chinese people are kind-hearted. For the sake of being both treasure hunters, please forgive my brother this time. What kind of plea? Big Joey rarely succumbed, losing so much money this time and feeling uneasy. He clenched his fists and came to Zhu Yu's face, condescending. Little one, you better keep your mouth shut, otherwise I'll turn your container into ruins. Zhu Yu knew that the Qiao Yi was referring to the container he lived in. It seems that someone really needs to tidy up in order to remember deeply. New books are not easy, please collect and recommend tickets. Chapter 5. Making Others Money for 1 Year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fight ultimately didn't start. Xiao Yi stopped to Qiao Yi and apologized to Zhu Yu, saying, Huaxia kid, I'm sorry, you know Big Joey has some personality issues, so. How about I compensate you $500? Okay, Zhu Yu didn't insist on beating Big Joey. Although these container treasure hunters have a competitive relationship with each other, they also have intricate connections. It's really troublesome to provoke trouble. Xiao Joey counted out $500 and handed them to Zhu Yu, then pulled the indignant Big Joey away. Zhu Yu called John. John, I have a batch of goods here. Can you find someone to eat them? Zhu, did you bet on the container? It seems like you have gained a lot. Tell me, what kind of goods? About 50 boxes of printing paper and 15 laser printers. I'll send you the model later. Not bad, not bad. I am the contact person now. If it is a brand new product, it can be worth a lot of money. Zhu Yu waited here for half an hour before a truck arrived. A middle-aged man in a suit came down and immediately walked over when he saw something here. Are you Yu Zhu? The person asked with a smile, I'm John's friend Nathan. I heard you have a batch of printers and photocopy paper here. That's right. Zhu Yu pointed to the box on the ground. It's brand new, you can check it. While waiting just now, he had already checked online and found that the official suggested retail price for this printer is $700 per unit. Of course, this is the retail price. Nathan carefully inspected each printer and then quoted with a smile. They are all John's friends, so how about I give you a fair price of $9,000? Zhu Yu shook his head. If it were a light printer, the price would be reasonable. But there is also copy paper, and this quantity is not small. If I sell them online, I can sell them for at least $12,000. Okay. Nathan thought Zhu Yu was easy to talk about, but he didn't expect him to be very familiar with the market. I can only offer up to $10,000 at most. Deal. Zhu Yu smiled and extended his hand. Nathan was taken aback for a moment. He thought Zhu Yu would continue to negotiate, but he didn't expect it to be so refreshing now. Shaking hands with Zhu Yu, then paying and moving things onto the car. The contents of this container are basically cleared directly by Nathan, and Zhu Yu only needs to clear the old tables and garbage. Half an hour later, the empty container was handed over to James. Zhu Yu, feeling refreshed, carried the table to his living container, arranged it and wiped it clean. Well, that's good. Next, let's take stock of the gains. Originally, I had 2,001, John's 1,000, which is 3,001. Sell the typewriter for 3,000, then get another 10,000 for the printer, which is 161,000, and there is also 500 given by little Joey, which is 16,600. By the way, there is also $100 for selling clothes, and the total income is 16,700 yuan, which is really a good number. In terms of expenses, the third container is $125, and the small Joey's container is $29, which is $3,025. This one in and one out, and in the end, I have 138,000 left. If I still go to John's 1,000, it will be 128,000. I earned over 60,000 soft girl coins in a day. This is really at the level of a great god in the online literature world. After enjoying himself for a while, Zhu Yu left the door satisfied. The first time I gambled on a container, I had such a harvest. Although there was a bonus from Tianyan, there was also a lot of fighting for intelligence and bravery. Brothers like Madden and Joey have very poisonous eyes. Around today, it seemed like Joey was a beginner and wanted to bully him, that's why he did that. We still need to be cautious in the future. Of course, when it's time to be high-profile, you absolutely can't pretend to be cowardly. When Big Joey came over, if he had really taken action, Zhu Yu would never have softened his heart and kept his hands. At home, the skills taught by my grandfather, although the old man humbly said they were just farming skills. But Zhu Yu absolutely believes that those moves must be homicide skills. Flip over the Joey brothers, it's definitely not a problem. Zhu Yu still has this confidence. Otherwise, my dad wouldn't have trusted Zhu Yu to come and try it himself. After leaving the container and locking it, Zhu Yu walked out of the port area and took a taxi to the city. I bought John a jade pipe for $500, which can be considered a small luxury item. Zhu Yu bought another set of clothes and originally planned to go to the second-hand car market to buy a car, but the money didn't actually amount to much. Let's just forget about it. I went to a Chinese restaurant and had a Chinese meal. It was okay, not particularly bad, with a hint of hometown flavor. The most important thing is to buy a phone and apply for a card. After being attacked, Zhu Yu also lost his phone and spent half of his time recuperating at the bar. Apart from using old John's phone to report his safety twice and briefly saying a few words, he never called again. Inserting his phone card, Zhu Yu eagerly dialed the number he had been remembering. After the phone rang, it immediately answered. "Xiao Yu, is that you?" "It's the voice of my father Zhu Dehai." "Dad, it's me." Zhu Yu's voice trembled a bit, and he could hear it. His father's voice also trembled a bit. You finally have news. You said you were busy earlier, but you didn't explain it clearly, and your phone couldn't get through. Your mother was so anxious. Zhu Dehai's voice suddenly relaxed. Now, can you explain in detail what happened? So that lawyer called and said you committed a crime, killed someone, and became a wanted criminal. That person is talking nonsense. Find Shuyu on www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Zhu Yu immediately explained, when I came over, uncle was already dead, and the lawyer didn't let me see anyone. Zhu Yu explained the situation to his father once. After hearing this, Zhu Dehai was quite worried and said, then you should come back. Don't worry about your uncle's affairs. Your grandfather also said you shouldn't go out. Zhu Yu's grandfather has been holding a grudge against his uncle Zhu Dajiang for going to the United States, even claiming that he doesn't have such a son. So Zhu Yu's grandfather has always disagreed with Zhu Dajiang's request for Zhu Yu to come here to inherit the inheritance. The old man is very traditional. He believes that if Zhu Dajiang becomes an American citizen, he will be considered a traitor. I can't go back now. If it weren't for Tianyan, Zhu Yu might have been buying a plane ticket by now. But the black pendant is related to the cultivation method of the heavenly eye, and Zhu Yuji must win it. Besides, if you're injured, then retaliate back. Hiding is not a tradition of the Zhu family. Zhu Dehai also knew his son's personality, so he said. Be careful then. If you need money, let me know. No need, it's quite easy for me to make money here, Zhu Yu said with a smile. But Zhu Dehai thought he was broadening his heart and responded with a serious tone. A poor family and a prosperous road. It's not convenient to be at home when you're away. This is not a polite time. Your mother has come over, you can say a few words to her. Mother Hu Xiumei had a crying voice in her voice, and it took Zhu Yu a lot of effort to calm her down. Hanging up the phone, Zhu Yu knew that he had to recharge again. Originally, Zhu Yu planned to buy a used car, but after calculating his own money, he forgot. Let's wait and earn another wave before we talk. New books are not easy, please collect and recommend tickets. Chapter 6. Joanna comes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the Seven Axes bar, John saw Zhu Yu coming and exaggerated, saying, "Oh oh. Our lucky kid is back, come on, let me see. Ha ha ha, he looks good." At this moment, there were not many people in the bar, only acquaintances. When they heard John's words, they all laughed. Old Sailor Bondi held a cup and said to Zhu Yu. "Zhu, I heard you've made a big profit, not bad. I always thought you couldn't stay in the bar all the time, let's see." Another sailor struck him. "How do I remember you saying that Zhu has an introverted personality and is only suitable for working in bars? Fuck you." Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter. Zhu Yu greeted these people one by one with a smile and arrived at the bar. "John, this is a gift for you." Zhu Yu handed the pipe over. "Thank you. There is also $1,000 borrowed from Zhu Yu by John yesterday in the pipe box." John took the box and opened it, showing a surprised expression. "Wow. It's a beautiful pipe. I like it. Thank you for your help." Zhu Yu said sincerely. Don't. John blinked at Zhu Yu, "You know what? Nathan's place, I have a $500 agency fee, which is even higher than my bar's daily income. So, I am an investor. Now your performance proves that my eyesight is good." Ha ha ha. Old John didn't take credit, which made Zhu Yu even more grateful. If it weren't for old John, I'm afraid I would have really died on the streets. "Alright, have a drink, it's my treat. If you have something good in the future, just remember to contact me." Old John knew Zhu Yu's thoughts and smiled as he poured him a glass of wine. "This is your beer produced in China. I think you should drink it frequently, right? Zhu Yu glanced at it and didn't expect to see the existence of liquor like NSNM here. It's really amazing. He picked up the cup and took a sip, a bitter feeling filling his mouth, but the familiar feeling returned. Is this the taste of hometown? Come on, pour me a glass too. A female voice rang out next to her, and Zhu Yu turned his head to find the beautiful Joanna. Joanna has relatively rare black hair among white people, big eyes, and no common freckles like white girls. She is slightly lower in height than Zhu Yu and is now looking at Zhu Yu with a smile on her face. Oh, our beauty is here. Someone in the bar immediately started coaxing. These old drinkers all knew that Joanna was interested in Zhu Yu, but Zhu Yu was more reserved and did not accept this friendship. In everyone's eyes, this is a personality trait of Zhu Yu as a Chinese person. But Zhu Yu knows his own affairs, and now is not the time for dating. John poured Joanna a glass of beer. Joanna took a sip, frowned, and then relaxed. Well, it's a strange smell. After finishing speaking and drinking, pushed the cup to John. Give me another drink. Zhu Yu wanted to persuade, but couldn't start. John was very happy to see these two people together, and he smiled and gave the bottle directly to Joanna. You can do it yourself, this is wine from Zhu's hometown. Joanna's eyes lit up as she listened. Is there only one bottle? How can this be? Joanna, you're still at school, you can't drink too much, Zhu Yu could only advise. Although beer is not very intoxicating, its beer content is a bit high. Today is the weekend, don't you know? Joanna let out a hiccup and blew a mouthful of alcohol at Zhu Yu. It feels really good. By the way, I heard you bet on the container today and made some money. Won't you treat me to a meal? Of course, please. After all, in the bar, besides John's help, Joanna's presence also saved Zhu Yu a lot of trouble. Besides, eating is better than drinking. But Zhu Yu miscalculated. Joanna's intention was to go to Zhu Yu's place for dinner and ask him to cook a meal for her. I have long heard that you are very skilled at cooking. If you really want to treat me to dinner, then make it for me. Zhu Yu felt like he had been tricked. But it didn't matter, he took Joanna to the container where he lived. Let this young lady see where she lives, so as to dispel her thoughts. Now Zhu Yu just wants to make money quickly. With strength, he can seek revenge. When Joanna left, she held a bottle of NSNM in one hand and blinked at John. John gave her a thumbs up, wishing her success. Zhu Yu didn't even see it. Upon arrival at the container, Joanna was quite surprised. However, what was unexpected was not that Zhu Yu lived in a container, but that the place was surprisingly cleaned up very cleanly. Wow! Zhu, I didn't expect you to even tidy up the house. Joanna absolutely refuses to admit that the houses in her villa are not cleaned up here. For Chinese people, this is normal. Zhu Yu began to tidy up and prepare for cooking. Since we're cooking, let's make it our specialty. Fortunately, we still have plenty of inventory. Take out the rice, wash it thoroughly, steam it in an electric rice cooker, and then start cleaning the fish. He plans to make the simplest fried egg with green pepper, then make a steamed sea fish, stir-fry a mapo tofu, and make a laver egg vegetable soup. To say that the seasoning here is so abundant, I really want to thank the container sales business. There are also many containers sold here that come from China, have no owners or cannot afford rent and are abandoned. Many seasonings were prescribed among them. Those treasure hunters didn't quite understand, so some threw them away. Zhu Yu stocked up quite a bit, half buying and half picking. Otherwise, it's really not easy to want to eat authentic hometown cuisine. Joanna was also not idle and asked Zhu Yu. Where is the cup? Zhu Yu pointed him to the position of the cup and continued cooking. Except for steamed fish, the other two dishes take no time and are quickly cooked. Joanna poured some good wine and sniffed at the book garden www.zhaosuiyuan.com. She was already planning to stir up. How fragrant. She couldn't help but swallow her saliva. If she were at her own house, she might have to get started. Here, still wait. Pay attention to image. Damn image. Zhu Yu saw Joanna's expression and smiled as he handed her a pair of chopsticks. Can you use it? Well, I've learned it. Joanna was a bit lacking in confidence. Then let's use this. Zhu Yu gave her another iron spoon and fork. No need, I'm waiting for you. Okay, 10 minutes will be enough. 10 minutes later, two people sat down at the table, one serving rice. Come on, let's eat. Zhu Yu picked up his chopsticks and picked up a piece of fish for Joanna. Try my craft. After thanking Joanna very politely, she tasted it. Although mentally prepared, I didn't expect Zhu Yu's rice to be really delicious. Then I turned to the very nice green pepper scrambled egg. Then, mapo tofu, oh. Joanna knows for the first time what spiciness is. She fanned the wind hard, and although the tofu in her mouth was spicy, she couldn't bear to spit it out. Spicy and delicious. Drink and suppress. Zhu Yu suppressed a smile. He didn't originally plan to tease Joanna, but seeing her greedy expression gave him this idea. Joanna drank all the beer in her glass, and then the spoon reached for mapo tofu again. As I said, the more numb and spicy it is, the more I want to eat it. After coming and going, 2 bottles of wine were quickly consumed, and Zhu Yu's inventory of several other bottles of beer was also emptied. And then. Chapter 7. Beauty Following Gambling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the morning, when Zhu Yu woke up, he looked at Joanna, who was still asleep beside him, with a gentle gaze in his eyes. After all, I still couldn't get rid of my basic needs and rolled the sheets with this girl. Last night, after drinking, the two of them chatted and ended up in bed. It's probably because I found a solution to the problem, took the first step, and got in touch with my family again. So Zhu Yu's suppressed emotions were released on this day. And Joanna, just now, is the best outlet to release her emotions. However, what Zhu Yu didn't expect was that Joanna was even crazier than herself. Fortunately, after receiving Tianyan, Zhu Yu's overall physical fitness has been strengthened. Otherwise, we may not necessarily win. At this moment, seeing Joanna's body, she was eager to move again. When the two of them regained their composure, the sun had already risen high. Kissing Joanna, Zhu Yu got dressed and was about to get something to eat when John called. Zhu, haven't you woken up yet? Young people should know how to exercise restraint and not waste time in bed, so as not to regret it when they get old. By the way, Joanna, keep going, right? John's words made Zhu Yu a bit overwhelmed and his face turned red. A few days ago, I was talking about not considering emotions, but after 2 days, I rolled the sheets with the girl. How appropriate to slap oneself in the face with such behavior. Joanna walked over and hugged Zhu Yu's waist, saying softly. Darling, what are you saying? John over there heard Joanna's voice and raised his volume, saying. Hey Joanna, congratulations on taking Zhu, he's a great young man. Alright, Zhu, now I'll send you the information about the containers that will be auctioned off today. You can decide for yourself. After speaking, I hung up the phone. Joanna kissed Zhu Yu's ear and asked. Do you still have to work today? Zhu Yu nodded apologetically and said to Joanna. Yes, I have to earn money. Is it gambling on containers? Yes. Can I go? Joanna looked curious. Of course, Zhu Yu smiled and said, I think you will bring me good luck. The two of them had a simple meal, and Zhu Yu had already seen several yards with auction containers today. To his embarrassment, the most auctioned container was actually the yard owned by Joanna's father. There are 11 containers to be auctioned off. Another one has 5 containers auctioned off. Zhu Yu decided to go to another small freight yard. I just finished eating and wiping Joanna last night, and today I'm going to see the girl's parents. Can you avoid feeling guilty? Joanna doesn't mind, just follow Zhu Yu. Along the way, Joanna kept asking like a curious baby. Does it cost much to auction the container? What's inside? How did you tell if there was anything good inside? I also need to take a picture of a container and feel it later. Zhu Yu secretly roasted while answering. The daughters of wealthy families are different. This is my livelihood, others are just playing around. At the goods yard, there are already more than 10 people here, and the auction has already begun. The first container revealed 2 boxes of uncovered tools, with several boxes inside. The auctioneer was not the one yesterday, but his mouth was still as fast as before, and the auction price quickly soared from $100 to $550. Zhu Yu pulled Joanna into the crowd and opened his eyes to take a look. He found that there were all car tools inside and immediately turned to the second container. In the second container, from the door to the inside, there are densely packed wooden boards. From Zhu Yu's perspective, it's just an ordinary pine board. However, the advantage lies in the large quantity. This container has a large opening for goods and there is no room for gambling. In the third container, there are a mess of tools at the door. There is something covered with tent cloth inside. After looking through, I found that it was a motorcycle with a rather exaggerated design. It should be a good thing. After Zhu Yu took note, he quickly looked at the fourth container. There are some very old things placed inside, and there is a lot of dust accumulation. It should be a container that has been stored for a long time. Ancient wooden boxes, tin barrels, paper boxes, and some other items are stored directly in the container. It looks worthless. The only thing that made Zhu Yu feel a bit interesting was an old-fashioned safe, which could be seen at a glance at the cabinet door. The safe is open and empty inside. Zhu Yu felt a bit dizzy and immediately withdrew his heavenly eye. At this moment, the first container has been auctioned off for $1,100, and there are almost no bidders left. Joanna looked at it playfully and loudly said in Zhu Yu's ear. I must take a photo. You can try the rest of these. As long as they don't exceed the cost price, you can bet. With Zhu Yu's words, Joanna has more confidence. Although Zhu Yucai has auctioned off once, in Joanna's eyes, yesterday's performance was already very impressive. The first container auction ended and was bought by an Asian woman. She glanced at Zhu Yu and began to tidy up the things in the container. As soon as the second container was opened, the starting auction price was $200, and many people participated in the auction. Joanna also quoted twice. The price quickly rose to $1,000 or $2,000, and Zhu Yu waved to Joanna. If you add more, there won't be much profit left. This container consumed a lot of people's enthusiasm. When the third container was opened, although everyone could see something covered, there were not many bids. In the end, Joanna won the container for $6,500. When she was planning to go and see what was inside, Zhu Yu gestured to continue filming at the book garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com. The fourth container opened and upon seeing what was inside, the participants immediately booed. Garbage. It doesn't have much value. That's right, if that safe is closed, maybe we can even take a picture. Empty. There's nothing inside. The starting price is $50, and only Zhu Yu and another white old man are raising the price. The white old man seems to have a strong opinion of Zhu Yu. As long as Zhu Yu increases the price, he will increase it. $120.5. Zhu Yu bid again. $150. The old man hesitated for a moment before raising the price again. I'll raise the price for the last time, $200, Zhu Yu said to the old man. If you raise the price too high, this container belongs to you. He gambled that the old man was just like a pawn, just to raise the price and disgust himself. After all, the contents of this container are basically clear at a glance. Sure enough, the old man no longer offered. After taking this container, Zhu Yu still didn't stop and started waiting to see the fifth container. Zhu Yu's arrogance caught the attention of others present. But Zhu Yu doesn't care. This place is not like China, it's not something you can avoid by keeping a low profile. Sometimes, in the eyes of these people, being low-key is equivalent to being weak and easy to bully. So when someone looked over, Zhu Yu looked back without showing any weakness. Zhu Yu is 1.82 meters tall, although not as strong as Europeans and Americans, his height still feels a bit oppressive. As soon as the fifth container was opened, Zhu Yu immediately opened the heavenly eye. There's something good in here. Chapter 8. Competitors. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. From the entrance to the inside of the container, there are porcelain pieces displayed. Porcelain packed in a box. At first glance, most of the porcelain placed at the door was damaged. Either it's missing a corner or there's a crack. And inside, there are more than 10 boxes of porcelain that are intact and undamaged. Although Zhu Yu is a Chinese, his knowledge of porcelain is limited to ordinary people. These porcelain pieces don't seem to be modern, they look a bit like ancient porcelain. But the quantity is quite large. If it were ancient porcelain, even if it had defects, such a large quantity would still be a considerable wealth. Why did the owner of this container abandon these porcelain? This is not reasonable. Anyway, Zhu Yu wants to give it a try and take a picture. As soon as the container opened, the few people crowded at the door looked at the porcelain and immediately turned their gaze to Zhu Yu and the other Asian woman who had already followed and photographed the first container. Zhu Yu understood clearly. After all, porcelain is equivalent to China. These people have already regarded themselves and the other woman as powerful competitors. In recent years, due to the large number of Chinese people repurchasing overseas antiques, many overseas people have also known that ancient Chinese things are also very valuable. Ming and Qing porcelain, which used to be available for tens of dollars or even tens of dollars in flea markets, cannot be obtained for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars now. Even some people see people with Chinese faces buying things, and the price immediately increases tenfold or tens of times. I feel like Chinese people are like big enemies. Therefore, when the auctioneer offered a bottom price of $300 and Zhu Yu quoted $350, 7 or 8 people participating in the auction immediately raised the price to $1,100 with just one sentence each. Zhu Yu was greatly surprised. After carefully examining the porcelain, the Asian woman then offered a price. $1,500. After thinking for a moment, Zhu Yu also offered a price. $2,000. He suddenly added $500 just to scare off some competitors. Sure enough, this method worked. Some unknown auctioneers immediately stopped bidding. $2,100. But there are still 2 auctioneers who do not intend to give up. $2,300. $3,000. This time the Asian woman raised the price significantly. Zhu Yu was somewhat surprised, as this Asian woman seemed determined to acquire these porcelain pieces. Zhu Yu looked at these porcelain again and felt like it was covered with something, not as clear as ordinary porcelain. $3,500. A female voice suddenly rang out. Zhu Yu turned his head. Joanna. She walked up to Zhu Yu and whispered. Do you like it? If you like it, I'll take a picture for you. Zhu Yu was shocked. What is the situation? Take a picture of yourself. Are you going to eat soft rice now? That won't work. He lightly patted Joanna's shoulder and said. No need, I have money here. And these things are a bit suspicious. The Asian woman offered again. $4,000. Joanna listened to Zhu Yu's words and will no longer raise the price. However, the heat had already been hyped up by Zhu Yu and that woman. He didn't let Joanna increase it, but he still wanted to take a photo himself, and there were also other people raising the price. $4,500. Originally, it was a $50 markup, but when Zhu Yu and Asian women made a move, it was a $500 markup. Zhu Yu believed that the woman should also see that these porcelain pieces are ancient porcelain. It's just that this is not ordinary ancient porcelain, it's most likely Hai Lao porcelain. And many porcelain pieces have some degree of damage. Zhu Yu glanced over and found about 60 pieces of porcelain, of which about 40 were intact. The key point is that these porcelain were not fired in official kills. The heavenly eye can see the style below, there is no official creation. So, when calculated, even Ming and Qing porcelain is likely not particularly valuable. So, when the value reaches $7,000, only Zhu Yu and that woman are quoting. The woman walked over and whispered to Zhu Yu. Why bother killing each other? She uses Mandarin with a Central Plains dialect flavor. After thinking for a moment, Zhu Yu gave up. Although I don't know the price of Hai Lao porcelain, it definitely won't be too valuable. And they are all fellow countrymen, let's just form a good relationship. The Asian woman captured the porcelain. Thank you, my name is Helen, and this is my business card. The Asian woman handed the card to Zhu Yu, then glanced at Joanna and said. You have a beautiful girlfriend. After speaking, turn around and leave. Zhu Yu and Joanna tidy up the container together. Joanna asked her own question. Why didn't you continue shooting the container just now? If you don't have enough money, I still have some here. Zhu Yu shook his head and said. If we keep shooting, we won't make much money. He told Joanna about the speculation about Hai Lao CI and then said. Some of these porcelain pieces are damaged. The intact ones have a higher value, but they are also limited. I estimate the total value to be around $10,000. If we continue to purchase them, it will be meaningless. Joanna nodded vaguely and then focused her attention on the container she had captured. Joanna was very satisfied with Zhu Yu's patient attitude of explaining to herself. Which man or woman in love doesn't want the other person's attention to be on themselves? Unveiling the mask and seeing the motorcycle, Joanna exclaimed in surprise. Harley. Zhu Yu doesn't quite understand motorcycles. Zhaoshuyuan.com. Although I have heard of Harley, I do not have much understanding of its value. On the contrary, Joanna has a wealth of knowledge in this area, which taught Zhu Yu. This is a Harley motorcycle produced in the 1980s. Now it's a collectible, let me take a look. Joanna carefully looked at the model and parts of the motorcycle, and even tried to start it. Well, it's quite well preserved, probably selling for $10,000. I made a profit. Joanna couldn't help but turn around and kiss Zhu Yu. Darling, gambling on containers is really exciting. My luck is really good. Looking at other things, they are all parts and tools, worth a few $100s. I have a friend's father who collects this, and I can call her. Zhu Yu didn't expect that Joanna even had channels to sell it. After making the phone call, Joanna took a few photos and went over. Next, let's take a look at your container. I hope there will also be good results. Zhu Yu confidently said. There will be, your luck will bring me good luck. Entering the container, Joanna was immediately disappointed as she looked at the piles of old goods and even garbage on the floor. When she saw the safe again, her eyes lit up and she immediately saw it open, feeling disappointed again. It seems that my luck didn't have much effect. But Zhu Yu smiled and said. Who said that? Your luck is very good, it brought me good luck too, really. Really? Joanna was a bit skeptical. These are all worthless old goods, equivalent to garbage. Where did you get that good thing? Chapter 9. Picking up leaks also requires eye power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhu Yu picked up a torn piece of clothing, wiped the dust off the old safe, and smiled, saying. The most valuable one in this container is this safe. Safe. Joanna was a bit surprised and skeptical. Isn't this safe? A very ordinary old-fashioned safe. No, no, no. Zhu Yu shook his head and said, this safe has at least 80 years of history. So long. Is it really fake? Joanna is quite familiar with motorcycles, but everything else is just a layman. I owe my understanding of motorcycles to her friend. It's true. Zhu Yu crouched down and pointed to the sign on the safe. Look at this brand. The owner of this brand has been acquired and the brand has also been hidden. That is to say, there are no new safes produced in the world anymore, so that's it. Joanna looked very knowledgeable. Although Zhu Yu knew that Joanna was catering to him, he still felt quite satisfied with her vanity. How much is it worth? Joanna asked the most crucial question. Probably. Zhu Yu looked carefully again and gave an estimated price. It should be able to sell for $4,000. Oh. Joanna couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, the two of us, these two containers, made over $7,000. Even if Joanna was a little rich woman, after calculating today's earnings, she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This makes money too quickly. Zhu Yu immediately suppressed her idea. I can't think that way. Not all containers can make a profit. The two of us are lucky. To be more precise, today is our lucky day, and you have brought me good luck. He wiped the safe and said, most people who buy containers may only earn a few dozen or a few $100s. Some even have to pay a lot of compensation. Although Zhu Yu has only just entered the industry, he has been observing for more than half a month. He told Joanna some examples of gambling failures he saw and heard, trying to dispel her desire to underestimate the risks in this industry. Joanna smiled and took Zhu Yu's arm, saying, don't worry, I won't come over to gamble on the containers myself. There are so many expired containers in our yard. If you're really interested, I'll secretly dismantle one. Zhu Yu sweated profusely. He forgot that the beautiful girl in front of him had a large freight yard at home. Are there at least a dozen containers that have expired, been abandoned or forgotten inside every day? At this moment, Joanna's phone rang. She picked it up and saw that it belonged to a classmate, saying it had already arrived at the entrance of the freight yard. After leaving the container, I saw a middle-aged white man and a girl walking over. Andy, here. Joanna waved. The tall girl with short hair walked over and curiously glanced at Zhu Yu, saying to Joanna. Is this your Prince Charming? Yeah. Joanna admitted generously, Uncle Ronald, hello. Hello Joanna, the middle-aged white man greeted with a smile, and you, young Chinese young man, hello. Hello, Mr. Ronald, Zhu Yu responded with a smile. What's your name? Andy asked curiously. Andy looks like a tomboy, with an average appearance and a lively appearance. My name is Zhu Yu. Uncle Ronald, that's what I called the Harley. Joanna offered a treasure-like introduction. It was opened from the container by me. You're so lucky. Ronald was truly envious, not everyone has such luck. Ronald said and walked over to carefully inspect the car. After checking for more than 10 minutes, he stood up and smiled, saying, not bad, it's a good car, well maintained, without rust, and the parts are also original. Are you sure you want to sell it? Yeah. Joanna said excitedly. Well, I can give you $11,000. Deal. Joanna said eagerly. I was originally thinking of $10,000, but I didn't expect to have an extra $1,000, so naturally we're going to make a deal. The motorcycle, parts, and tools were all taken away by Ronald, while Zhu Yu called John and said he had an old-fashioned safe to collect here. After John asked about the model clearly, he immediately said. This is very rare, I know who wants to collect it, you wait. After a while, a strange phone call came over. Zhu Yu. I'm white. Old John said you have an old-fashioned safe over there. What model? Zhu Yu reported the model number, and after confirming it repeatedly, the person said they wanted to come and take a look. During the waiting process, Zhu Yu and Joanna picked up the garbage from the container and brought it to the garbage dump outside. Joanna did this kind of work for the first time because there was a profit bonus, and she worked very hard. 40 minutes later, a car drove outside the freight yard. A short middle-aged white man hurried over. After seeing Zhu Yu, he immediately asked, "Where is the safe deposit box?" "Inside, Mr. White." Zhu Yu smelled a strong smell of engine oil on this person. Mechanical workers. Zhu Yu guessed and followed White into the container. Joanna also walked in curiously. She couldn't imagine that such an old safe, which was about the size of a bedside table, would be worth several $1,000s if she went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. If it were placed outside, she probably wouldn't even take a glance. "Well, it's genuine, that's right." White looked at it for a while before standing up and saying, "I think $3,500 is a good price." "Deal." Zhu Yu saw that White was a determined person, so he didn't intend to negotiate and just made the deal. "Okay, here you are." White took out a stack of green coins from his pocket and handed them over. Zhu Yu thought to himself that if he were to negotiate, there was a high probability that the other party would not agree, and even the talks might collapse. Make a small profit of $3,300, not bad. Zhu Yu was still thinking, could the reason why White offered $3,500 be because he still had to pay old John a $500 agency fee? Helping White lift the safe onto the car, Zhu Yu and Joanna happily left. "Let's have something delicious, shall we?" Joanna hugged Zhu Yu's arm and said, "Let's celebrate." "Okay." Zhu Yu thought he was going to a restaurant for dinner. Unexpectedly, Joanna took Zhu Yu to the supermarket, bought some materials, and then returned to the container where Zhu Yu lived. Her so-called delicious food is made by Zhu Yu. Joanna leaned on Zhu Yu's arm and said unhappily, "I'm going to class tomorrow. If I want to see you again, I can only do it next weekend. I really hate it." But Zhu Yu felt that this was also quite good. "I can take advantage of this week to earn some money and improve my living environment while getting closer to my goals. It's a bit inappropriate to have such a beautiful girl date me in the container. Even if Joanna doesn't care. That's the happy decision."